Hello and welcome to making ceramic whistles. For this project you're going to need a needle tool, a popsicle stick, a scoring tool, and some slip. You want to start by making a quick pancake. The best way to make the pancake is to take a ball of clay, slam it down a little bit until it's flat, and then start flipping. Just flip it in every direction until you have something that's relatively flat, about 1/4 of an inch thick. Flip, flip, flip. The purpose of this flat pancake is to get a rectangle out of it. So once you have your pancake, you want to make sure you take a needle tool and cut out a good sized rectangle. You don't want it to be too small and you don't want it to be too long. You want it to be about 1/3 of the length of your popsicle stick. So just take the rectangle and set it aside and then get a little more clay. Take a ball of clay, make sure it's no bigger than a tennis ball and no smaller than a golf ball. This is about somewhere in the middle. And you're just going to take 1/2 of it and make a nice pinch pot, just like we did with our practice pinch pots. Make sure that you smooth it and then tap it down on the board or on a table to get a flat lip and just continue smoothing it. You want the inside to be as smooth as possible and then tap it to make the lip flat. And once you've made both your pinch pots, you want to take them and score both lips to both pinch pots. Once both pinch pots are scored on the lip, you can take some slip and you just simply put them together. Remember, these pinch pots should be about the same size. You want to make sure you take a cupped hand. With your cupped hands, you want to gently push them together. That'll keep it from popping. Once you have those put together, you just want to take a popsicle stick or a wood tool and you just want to smooth the seam. Okay, just continue smoothing it until it's nice and slick and you have yourself a hollow sphere. That's about double the size that you started with. Now you have a hollow sphere that's about twice the size of the original ball of clay. You can go a little bigger or you can go a little smaller. The smaller the sphere, the higher the pitch. The larger the sphere, the lower the pitch. Now, as for the mouthpiece, you take the rectangle and you gently wrap it around a popsicle stick. Wrap it until you go around once, then you cut off the excess, score the edges, take some slip, and finish it folding it over. And then just take your fingers and smooth that as well as you can to make that seamless. And you have to make sure that you're keeping the clay wrapped tightly around the popsicle stick at all times. So as you can see, I'm smoothing it out, but I'm not squishing the clay so that it loses the shape of the popsicle stick. You can take a second stick and just finish those edges so that they're not too rough or too lumpy. Once you're happy with the results, you simply slide the popsicle stick out and you have your mouthpiece. It's very easy. The most important part to the whistle is making the reed. To make the reed, you take a popsicle stick and you go into the whistle at an angle, not straight in, but at an angle. And you just push the popsicle stick in without going out the other side. It's hard to see what I'm doing here, but what I'm doing is I'm cutting out a small rectangular piece of clay that's sitting over the popsicle stick that is still in the sphere. And you can kind of see how the popsicle stick is still in there. Then you remove the popsicle stick. What you want to do is opposite from where you inserted the stick, you want to remove a knob of clay. Let's just call it a round knob of clay. And the result of this is the reed. It's just a small reed, but it's the most important part of the whistle. And what I'm doing here is I'm taking the popsicle stick, giving it a flat surface underneath the reed, and I'm just going over the top of the reed and smoothing it out. The reed is what makes the noise. It is the most important part of your whistle. And as you can see, it is flat. It's not 100% flat, but it is flat. If you have a reed that is square around at the edge and it's not flat and at an angle, it's not going to work. A way to fix this is to take the popsicle stick, place it underneath the reed, and then take your little finger or another popsicle stick or a different tool and just smooth it and flatten it out again. Now that you have a nice flat sharp reed, it is time to add your mouthpiece. The mouthpiece has to be nice and smooth on the inside. You should be able to see a wall up top and a wall on the bottom. It's a perfect rectangle. And the mouthpiece should be able to fit into that knob that we cut out, and it's going to sit across from the reed. So now you have the mouthpiece across from the reed, and what you want to do to check and see if it's on there right is you want to look down the center of the mouthpiece and make sure that you can see the top and bottom of the reed. Once you have that set just right, you make sure that you have your thumb on there and you check for a whistle. Once you found the whistle, you want to make sure that the mouthpiece doesn't really move. And it's very important that it remains right there with the reed. So without removing it, you're going to score along the side and just secure it in place by adding a tiny little bit of clay that's just going to keep it there and keep it from moving. You want to do that on both sides. Notice that I'm keeping my thumb in a position that's going to allow the mouthpiece to remain stable. A little bit of slip and a little bit of clay, and you just kind of make sure that you attach it and make the clay that you're adding part of your whistle. It is very, very important that you do not move the mouthpiece around once you find the whistle. After you've added a little bit of clay to either side of the mouthpiece, you want to go ahead and bring in a little more and just kind of start smoothing it over. Don't worry so much about scoring and slipping because the clay should be wet when you're doing this and it will work, I promise. Don't worry so much about air bubbles because air will have a way of getting out. Just make sure that you go all the way around with some clay and don't forget to check for a whistle while you're moving it around. Once you've secured it in place, you don't have to worry so much about keeping a finger on the mouthpiece to keep it stable. Go ahead and just keep adding clay, making sure that you smooth it onto the mouthpiece and onto the whistle. Be very careful that the mouthpiece does not move around and stop every once in a while and check for a whistle. Try and smooth it out as much as you can. The nicer of a sphere and mouthpiece that you start with, the happier you'll be towards the end there. So just smooth, smooth, smooth. Use a wood tool or use a popsicle stick or use your fingers as long as you smooth it and make it one piece. Those are the basic elements to the whistle that we're going to be making. The most important part is that once you find your whistle, you do not alter the area between the reed and the mouthpiece, and you really don't want to alter the reed at all. Maybe you can smooth it a little bit and get rid of a few crumbs around the edges, but for the most part, you want to stay away from that area. And this is your basic whistle, just a sphere and a mouthpiece. The nice thing is that it can be anything. It could be a snail, it could be a duck, it could be an elephant. I've seen it become owls, I've seen it become swans. Anything that you might want to do with this, you can do. It is a blank canvas. And for you skeptics who think that maybe the whistle sound was added to the video, here you go.